Okay, I believe there is a quorum in the room, so I'd like members that are present in the room to go ahead and assume their places. And for those in attendance, if you care to witness, if you find a chair, that would be good. Clerk, call the roll. Cast your votes. I guess not, yeah. Clerk, close the roll. Thank you, Mr. Clerk. We're going to try to proceed. We got quite a number of bills that are still on our docket, and we were attempting to clear our docket this afternoon. This was our last scheduled meeting that we needed a special meeting for this afternoon. We do have, it appears now, 3 bills that I'm aware of, 4 bills actually, that I'm aware of that we will have to set a special meeting for next Monday to clear. One of those is, well, let me backtrack. There are 2 that I just got a request from Senator Donovan. And I need to, do you have the numbers on those, April? You took it off the agenda? Okay, so they're not here, okay. Then, but I was also informed by Senator Donovan that one of her bills, perhaps, was it 844? Steve, one that y'all just reported out, that people were unaware, that people had traveled here to speak to this afternoon. Is that correct?
That's correct. That's correct. They want to speak to the one that has the Charlottesville stuff. Where's Sarah? I'm sorry.
It probably wouldn't be on the docket. It would be 844. Okay. All right, there was a bill. Senator Deeds had a bill, and then Senator Donovan had a bill. Senator Deeds' bill was rolled into Senator Donovan's bill, and I understood that there were people who were not informed in a timely manner that it would not be heard this afternoon. They just made that decision late this afternoon. Are there some folks here from the Charlottesville area that came here specifically for that bill? 844. Okay, if not, I was going to extend a courtesy. We will not hear that bill until Monday. But if there's no one here to speak to that bill now, we will go ahead and proceed. Senator Peterson, you in the room? Senator Sturdivant, you in the room? Still working? It must still be working on it. Senator Serval? Okay. Senate Bill 951?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Give your attention to Senate Bill 951, Senator Serval.
Mr. Chairman, Senate Bill 951 has to do with fracking. I'm not sure if the committee has the Agriculture Committee amendments in front of it. The bill originally as introduced was a ban on hydraulic fracturing in the eastern groundwater management area, which is basically the area east of I-95. The Ag Committee put a 4-year sunset on it, so it's basically now a 4-year moratorium instead of a ban. So the committee has an understanding the eastern groundwater management area has had a lot of problems. DEQ recently put an underground water management plan because the aquifer has been going down at an unsustainable level, and they've had to put limits on drilling groundwater wells. A lot of homes east of 95, the only source of water is groundwater because the water in the main rivers out there is brackish. And in the Northern Neck area, 84,000 acres of that has been put under lease for fracking. And also the Middle Peninsula as well. There's a Texas-based company that put it under lease for fracking. And I think everybody knows that's basically you pump a bunch of chemicals down the ground, break the shale rock up, and then gas comes out. While there haven't been any fracking problems in Virginia, there have been fracking issues in other parts of the country, including wells being spoiled, groundwater being messed up, explosions, chemical releases, things like that. There are 4, and the shale is known as the Taylorsville Basin Shale. In light of this, there's actually 4 localities that have already banned fracking in that area. There's Augusta County was actually the first in the state to ban it, but in that area, King George County, Westmoreland County, Richmond County have all banned fracking, and Essex County has language they put in their comprehensive plan to make it very difficult. But the problem is basically if we have one leak of this stuff into our groundwater, we're going to spoil an aquifer for potentially millions and millions of people. And we can't take that risk. And so basically this bill now just has a moratorium so we can take a deep breath and be more careful about this before we allow it to happen. The last thing I would say, Mr. Chairman, I don't think the committee had the benefit of the financial impact statement, which came out, I believe, this afternoon.
Right.
Came out and said the financial impact is zero. And I just handed out a copy to everybody. And so given the financial impact zero, and this has already been vetted for policy, I assume you'll just send this to the floor.
Okay, Senator Norman.
Thank you. I just was curious, having the privilege of toiling in local government for 4 years, you tweaked my interest when you said that some had been able to include in their comprehensive plan some language that perhaps would have retarded the ability to do this fracking. Why can't we leave that up to each locality to determine how they want to handle it?
Mr. Chairman, I would say to Senator Norman that we could do that, and also localities can also change their mind. And part of the problem with this is that this resource is a common resource that's shared by about the Eastern Groundwater Management Area. The aquifer is a resource that's shared by probably at least 3 dozen counties. And if one county chooses to allow it to happen and it spoils the resource for everybody, that's, I think, more of a statewide concern than a local concern. I mean, the localities, obviously, what happens above ground is more their problem, but what happens below ground affects everybody. And so that's how I'd respond to that.
Okay. Senator Earl, as you're aware and as you alluded to, the policy decision was discussed in the Agriculture Conservation Committee, and we try to keep ourselves confined to the fiscal implications, but sometimes we stray from that. It's been represented to me that that some would consider this an economic taking because there are contracts in place.
I'm happy to talk about that.
Do you want to talk about that, or you have people here to speak to that?
No, I'm
or-
happy to talk about it. We talked about that in the Agriculture Committee, but I would submit that there is no taking here at all. The government has not granted a right to anybody to do anything. There's not a single license that's been issued. The government hasn't given anybody the thumbs up. We have leases that have been issued that were speculative leases issued on something that may or may not happen in the future, and that happens all the time. And if you look at takings law, the last 2 cases the U.S. Supreme Court came down on that would relate to this, one was Lucas, and that came down in 1992. Lucas case had to do with a beachfront lot in South Carolina where the federal government basically said you can't even build a house on it after a guy paid $1 million for it. And the Supreme Court said that's a taking because you've completely devalued the property. This doesn't devalue anybody's property. You can still have timber, you can have cows, you can put a house on it, you can do whatever you want. The second case is it was a case involving Penn State Railroad Station in 1978. And in that situation, the Penn Station, they wanted to put it 20 stories on top of their Manhattan Railroad Station. The New York Historical Commission said you can't. The United States Supreme Court said taking away the 20 stories isn't a taking because you're still allowing them to do what they're using the property for. They can still have a train station, they can rent it, they can sell food, they can have trains going in and out. That ain't a taking. Taking has to be a much more significant act than that. And I don't think there's, also I would point out that there's several other states that have done this. New York State banned fracking. Maryland did a 2-year moratorium. They banned it last year. This has happened in many other states, and no court in this country has found this constitutes a taking.
Okay. All right, since this has been heard previously, another committee will limit testimony to just a small amount, but is there anyone here to speak to the bill in favor?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. I'll be brief. I'm Brian Hoffman, live in Fredericksburg, Virginia, and here on behalf of Friends of the Rappahannock. We are very much in favor of this bill, working throughout the Northern Neck and Middle Peninsula and the entire Rappahannock River watershed, which the chairman represents portions of, Senator Vogel, of course, Senator Stewart and McDougal. These localities have already taken steps over the past 5 years. They've had ample opportunity to have public comment from their citizens and leaseholders, and have ultimately come to the decision to severely restrict or ban these activities because they care about their natural resources and their rural economies. So I think that this is a great opportunity for your committee to move this bill on and pass. Thank you.
Right. Thank you. In favor? Brief, just very brief statement.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Pat Calvert, Virginia Conservation Network. We're in favor.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, I'm Trias Lockwood with the Virginia League of Conservation Voters, and we support this bill. Thank you.
Okay, anyone here in opposition to the bill?
Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, David Clark, representing the Virginia Oil and Gas Association. We do oppose this bill. We think it is unnecessary. We also think that it sends the wrong message from the Commonwealth that we're going to ban a legitimate business practice that has proven to be safe, including in the Commonwealth of Virginia. And I will respectfully disagree with the patron regarding whether this is a taking or not, because natural gas is a property right in Southwest Virginia and other parts of the state. Historically, property owners have received significant royalty payments from their natural resources. It's a property right that we believe this legislation would infringe upon and would result in claims against the Commonwealth for a taking. I will point out that just a few years ago, this body dealt with the uranium issue where there was a moratorium in place that currently is still in litigation as to whether that is a taking or not. And I also would point out that, as the patron mentioned, New York has a ban, but just recently a case was filed in New York challenging the constitutionality of that ban, and we believe that this is something that not only is unnecessary, but it would open the Commonwealth to claims for compensation for a property taking. Thank you.
Excuse me. Has a question, I believe.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. David, you made a statement that this has been safely done throughout the Commonwealth.
No, well, Southwest Virginia.
Okay, Southwest Virginia. It has not been done in the region of the Potomac Aquifer, has it?
Mr. Chairman, I will say that in the early 80s, there were some test wells drilled in the area of the aquifer, and they were done by ExxonMobil or one of the larger producers. I don't know for sure which one, and they were safely done. Those were test wells. Don't know the results of those. We do believe there is some gas in that area, but we do not believe that anyone is prepared to go into that area and drill. And I would just point out to you the reason we think that's not likely to happen is because all you have to do is go up into Pennsylvania and West Virginia, and every time you put a drill bit in the ground, you have an almost certainty of a big return on your investment for your drilling. It's unproven in Eastern Virginia and acknowledged to be an environmentally sensitive area, so we don't believe that it's likely that anyone's going to go in there. But we would oppose this as a moratorium because it's a bad precedent. We think it sends a bad signal to the Commonwealth, to the business community, to the rest of the country. We also think that it's likely to be something that other parts of the state would say, well, why not us as well? And that would be very damaging to the industry, and we think to the Commonwealth.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right. I believe the committee, yes, go ahead.
Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, Miles Moran with the Virginia Petroleum Council. I want to briefly address just one issue that's been brought up, and that is the uniqueness of the aquifer in that area. And I have a map, a USGS map of the aquifers in the United States. And you can see the yellow aquifer that runs along the southeast is a coastal plain aquifer. And you can see it covers almost the entire landmass of Louisiana and about a quarter of the landmass of Texas, where a whole lot of shale drilling is done about 10,000 feet down. So while this hasn't been done in the northern neck of Virginia, that type of geology is very familiar territory for the oil and gas industry and is not something that we should base a ban off of.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right, thank you very much.
Mr. Chairman, Chris Nolan with McGuire Woods on behalf of CNX Resources, and we also oppose the bill.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right. Senator Servo, you want to wrap it up, then we'll see.
Sure,
what the
absolutely.
committee-
I would just point out Pennsylvania and West Virginia are a different shale, completely different geology, completely different aquifer, totally different issue, nothing to do with this. Number two, this is a 4-year moratorium. And the moratorium, it was made a moratorium, not a ban, and Senator Peterson actually made the motion because of the concern about the taking. As you just heard them say, this is completely unproven. I don't know how something unproven could be a taking. That just isn't how taking law works. So it isn't a taking. If anybody wants to read it, I have a 97-page article from the University of Delaware or Denver Law School about why fracking is not a taking. A fracking ban is not a taking. So
Okay. All right, thank you, Senator Servo. What's the pleasure of the committee? Motion to report, is there a second to that? Motion properly supported to report bill, that is Senate Bill 951. Any further discussion? Hearing none, clerk, open the roll.
Roll is open, sir.
Clerk, close the roll. Ayes 8, noes 8. The bill fails to report, Senator Sturgill.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, thank you. Senator Peterson. Oh, excuse me. Senator Edwards, is he in the room, or is he? Okay. I just been informed that Senator Edwards would like to strike Senate Bill 986. Chair would entertain that motion.
So move.
Okay, motion properly supported to strike Senate Bill 986. Clerk, do you have the roll ready? Okay, clerk, open the roll. Cast your votes. Clerk, close the roll. Ayes 16, no zero. The bill is stricken from the docket. Senator Peterson.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, members of the committee. This is Senate Bill 424, and it deals with the creation of what's called will be called the Virginia Gaming Commission. Charitable gaming, obviously, we've had in this state for several years and been under the state agency. This would basically form a standalone commission that would oversee charitable gaming. There would be 11 non-legislative members set up. The majority of the members would be from the operators, the charitable operators. You can go through all the text. Unfortunately, I don't have the substitute in front of me, but just doing it based on memory. The whole idea is to set this up as a Callahan Act agency where it would be self-funding, self-governing, much like DGIF. The operators themselves would police the agency. They would have the ability to refer matters to the state police to crack down on illegal gaming. But in essence, it would set up a structure where this bill does not in and of itself expand charitable gaming, but it puts a platform in place that if we did want to expand it, we would have the ability to do so, again, with a standalone agency in place, similar to other standalone, commissions in place, similar to other we have. I should probably get my friend up here to give any more details. Obviously, we had heard in General Laws Committee, but Chuck Lesson is here to bail me out.
Okay, all right. We'll be pleased to hear from your speaker.
Thank you. Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, my name is Chuck Lesson. I am currently serving as the legislative director for the Virginia Charitable Bingo Association. I also currently serve on the state's Charitable Gaming Board. Since the Commonwealth has begun regulating charitable bingo, it's been close to 20 years. Our industry has been in a precipitous slide. We went from approximately $400 million a year of gross revenue, most of that, by the way, is paid back in prizes, to currently about $260 million in gross revenue. We've come before the body year after year to try to tweak our industry and develop a number of fixes, and we have not been successful, and we think that this bill will fix our problems. First of all, the state is currently keeping over 50% of the fees that the charities pay in. Each charity is required to pay in 1 1/8% of our gross revenue to regulate our industry. Half of that money is taken away from us every year, and each year the amount that we keep is reduced, which makes it very, very difficult to regulate the industry properly. Currently, the charities have no control over our board, meaning there are 11 members of our board. Believe it or not, only 4 of those members come from the charities that have licenses to conduct charitable gaming. The rest of them are citizens at large, police, suppliers, from other groups that really do not have a great expertise. What this bill will do is create a commission. 8 of the 11 members will come from the charities. Experts, folks like myself who have real jobs during the day, but in 1 or 2 nights a week. We've been doing this for decades, working for our charities. Last year, the charities, out of the monies that were left, had about $26.5 million to use for our stated charitable purposes. That's great, but it is a fraction of what it used to be. So we believe that this commission, this newly formed commission, would create a situation whereby more members of charities would be involved in the regulation and coming up with ideas to improve things for our industry. As I said before, half of our funds are siphoned off. If we're able to keep the funds that we pay in, we will be able to hire more inspectors. One of the things that comes before this body every year is illegal gaming, And what we're hoping to do is to negotiate with the state police, use some of our funds, the funds that we pay in, to have full-time investigators that will deal with this, because it is an ongoing annual problem and all year, every year. It is a game of whack-a-mole where these illegal games pop up all over the Commonwealth, and Commonwealth's attorneys and police chiefs simply do not have the time or the resources to shut these games down. This bill would create an environment whereby our board, our commission would be able to deal with those situations. We've struggled for decades. This bill represents the first real chance that the charities will be able to implement real positive change, and we ask that you support the bill.
Thank you very much. Anyone speak briefly in favor? Anyone here speak in opposition?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. David Halleck on behalf of Pace-O-Matic. I won't trespass much on your time, but I would just say the idea of creating an independent commission is somewhat troublesome to us in that you are creating you'd be creating a new independent commission in Virginia run by volunteer citizen political appointee board members with little accountability or oversight. Right now, the commission is under the Department of Agriculture, the Secretary of Agriculture. There's a good amount of kind of oversight of the citizen political appointee board. What this bill does is take that completely out of any oversight or management and makes it an independent board on that front, an independent board that has members who have inherent conflicts, who are part of the industry as their board. If you're going to create an independent board or commission, you should do it like you do the ABC board, the lottery board, where you have true independent appointees that don't have conflicts on this. The last point I'd like to make is that I don't believe that the Charitable Gaming Board has asked for this. They're the ones that are currently running it under the Department of Ag, and I don't believe they've even asked for this at this point. So with that, we'd ask that you oppose the bill.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Chairman.
Okay, Senator Peterson, you ready to?
Yeah, I just want to wrap up, and I would use the analogy of Department of Game and Inland Fisheries, where we have a citizen panel. They can hire staff, they can retain the staff. It is a volunteer citizen panel. I think the key part is, and Chuck is much more eloquent than I am, that it's the charities. I mean, this belongs to them. It's their monies, and they really have a right to protect it. And right now, it's going downhill, and we're just trying to reverse that slide.
Okay, thank you. Okay, I guess a couple members of the committee, Senator Ruff, you ran this through general laws. Do you have anything to expand on this?
Mr. Chairman, I think it's been covered pretty well. I do believe that it probably needs the clause on the bill.
If we choose to report it in any fashion, it would need the clause.
Mr. Chairman.
I would move that clause.
Okay. Our fiscal impact is showing a net operating loss of $1.5 million a year. Okay, is there a second? Motion properly supported to add the fiscal contingency clause. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Any opposed?
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, Senator McDougal?
One other thing in our rules, we require that the membership with the House of Delegates be equal, so there would have to, for this to go forward, it would have to probably reduce one from the governor and add it to the Senate membership column.
Okay. So you're offering that as an amendment?
I offer it as an amendment.
Okay, is there a second? Then there's a second. Senator McDougal. All those in favor of adjusting the membership signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay, that amendment is adopted. What's the pleasure of the committee?
The report as amended.
Motion, is there a second? Second. Motion properly supported to
Chairman.
Yes,
Mr.
Senator
Chairman,
Newman.
maybe I'm the only one here, but I mean, this isn't one of these other boards. This is about gaming, and there may not be a lot of problems, but there can be a lot of problems. And so I just have a lot of readiness. I didn't think we were going to put the clause on it, honestly, but I'm just very much concerned about going down this path.
Okay. There was a motion to report as amended, and it was seconded.
Substitute motion.
Substitute motion, Senator Newman? Substitute motion by Senator Newman. Is there a second to that motion? Second. Motion properly supported to pass the bill by indefinitely. Clerk, open the roll.
Roll's open, sir.
Cast your votes. Clerk, close the roll.
Ayes 9, noes 7.
I believe Senator Vogel needs, which way you want to go there? Red. Okay, you can catch her vote?
9/7/16 last time I called it.
I will send out to make sure.
Oh, okay, you did vote. The board just didn't record it properly. It was 9-7. The bill is passed by.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Senator Peterson. Senator Lucas, you have a bill that you want to address quickly?
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, after looking at 424, you can just strike my bill.
Okay, you want 992, Senate Bill 992? Is that the one you want to strike?
Strike.
Okay, request the motion but the patron to strike her bill, Senate Bill 992. Was there a second to that?
Second.
Second, any discussion? Clerk, whenever you're ready, open the roll. All right, cast your votes to strike Senate Bill 992. Okay, clerk, close the roll. Ayes 16, no zero. The bill is stricken from the docket, and the chair would entertain any other requests like it if anybody else wants to strike their bill. Okay, we'll move on. Senator Sturdivant.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I've got a couple of bills before you today. Do you have a preference which one the committee would like to consider first?
However you want to handle them, Senator
Okay, I've got Senate Bill 77, which is a dual enrollment bill dealing with universal transfer course credits. And Mr. Chairman, we have a phenomenal dual enrollment system in Virginia where high school students take college-level courses, and it's an opportunity for them to earn college-level credit that they can then transfer, in many cases, to a four-year college. And it's a great opportunity for them to not only get advanced learning opportunities, but also to potentially save some money on college. The challenge that we face in many cases is that not all of our colleges will accept dual enrollment credits for every single class. So a student at a Virginia public high school may take Economics 101 and they may score high enough and they may get the credits, but while UVA may accept those credits, perhaps Christopher Newport does not. Virginia Tech may accept the credits and another school may not. And so what this bill seeks to do is to develop quality requirements for dual enrollment credits and develop these universal credits that will be accepted at all Virginia four-year colleges and universities so that a high school student knows when they're taking the class that if they do well enough, those credits will in fact transfer.
Senator Newman.
Mr. Chairman, Senator Sturdivant and about 5 others have been working on this in our committee, and he was kind enough to be one of the patrons, and Senator Donovan's got a piece as well. I don't know when we want to do it, but I think that what we need is we currently need one policy, and I think it's embedded in the Donovan core that we have today, which I think will need to have the clause on it as we continue to work on it. But Senator Sturdivant had worked so hard on this that if it's okay with the committee to roll his in, I think he needs to be the chief co-patron of that bill. Would that be okay, Mr. Chairman?
It would,
You're good with that?
Sure. Thank you.
Okay, it does appear that we could roll that, but what we'll need to do is just hold this bill then until we're addressing Senator Donovan's, and then we will take action on that if you want to wait upon that. So we'll list you then we'll roll 77 into 631 tentatively, and list you as the chief co-patron at the suggestion of Senator Newman.
Thank you.
Okay, you want to address Senate Bill 747 then?
747 is another dual enrollment related bill. In Virginia right now, we offer a fantastic opportunity for students who go to community college and who earn their associate's degree and do well enough and maintain a high enough GPA that those community colleges can have guaranteed admissions agreements with four-year colleges, so that if you earn your associate's degree, you do well enough, you can walk right into William & Mary or UVA or Virginia Tech or pick your Virginia public college and university. And that's a great way, again, for students to help manage their debt by going to community college, staying closer to home perhaps,
and then finishing up with their four-year degree at a college. What we don't offer, however, is for those students who take those dual enrollment courses in high school. Okay, so they are taking those advanced courses, those community college courses, those college level courses in many cases, from a community college professor. Some of those kids are actually earning their associate's degrees by the time they finish high school. So a student will walk across the stage in June and get their high school diploma, and will also be getting their associate's degree as well. And so what this bill seeks is simply to allow community colleges, not require, but to have permissive language such that community colleges can develop these guaranteed admission programs for high school students that earn their associate's degree to get guaranteed admission to a four-year public college.
Okay. All right, I think you've well described the bill. Is there anyone here to speak in favor of the bill?
Oh, thank you.
Tom Smith, Superintendent's Association. As I think it's evident, dual enrollment is becoming more and more critical to what we do at the high school, particularly with some of the changes that the state board is putting in place with the portrait of a graduate. We would support this as we would his other bill and Senator Donovan's bill. We think it's time to really put together, as Senator Newman indicated, a comprehensive look at what we're trying to do so our parents and students have clarity in where they're headed.
Okay. Any others speak briefly?
Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, I'm Kathy Bircher with the Virginia Education Association. We support this bill, and I associate our position with those of the School Boards Association, or the superintendents.
Thank you very much. Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. Mindy Carlin, representing the Northern Virginia Chamber of Partnership. We also support this bill. Thank you.
Okay. Yes.
Mr. Chairman, I'm Martin Noe, Chairman of the Northern Virginia Transportation Authority. I'm here to talk about the Metro bill, but I'm also the parent of 4 homeschool kids. I really need this bill to pass.
Okay.
This would be great for me.
Good,
Thank you.
good. Glad you're enthusiastic about it. All right.
Mr. Chairman, Ellen Davenport with the Virginia Community College System. We very much support this bill. We appreciate all the other bills that have been put forward this year as well, so thank you.
Okay. Anyone here dare to oppose this bill? Senator Newman?
Mr. Chairman, we've heard this a couple times in education and health. This is clearly a permissive bill. So if there's a college that does not want to participate at all, they don't have to. It'll probably mostly be community colleges the way it's set up. But I would hope that we would report the bill, and I so move.
Okay. And I would observe that we've not detected a significant fiscal impact. So there is a motion and a second to report. Any further discussion? Hearing none, clerk open the roll. Please cast your votes. Clerk close the roll. Whoops. Ayes 15, no 0. Clerk record Senator Wagner's vote then.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Senator Sturtevant.
Thank you very
You
much.
have one more.
I think it was going to be carried over.
You want to? Till Monday? You want to pass that by for the day?
For the day, if that'd be all
Monday?
right? Yes, please.
Okay, without objection, we'll pass that by for the
Thank
day. Okay, do we have any other non-members?
Mr. Chairman.
Senator Wagner?
This is a non-member bill, and I'm going to ask Senator Lewis to come up here if I could, because we had a bill that went out on a 6-6 and still in the committee. It's not on the docket.
Okay.
Are we going to have another meeting, Mr. Chairman?
We're going to have a meeting Monday, but depends on what.
Okay, all right, then we'll take it up Monday, but I'd ask you to put it back on the docket, Mr. Chairman, if we could.
The one that's still on the table that left
Right,
here.
the one
with
that's
the
still on
tie
the table, if it's the pleasure of the chairman to do it Monday or take it
Okay,
up now.
and we can do that Monday, unless you've got a simple substitute that's going to take away most of the objections.
I have a simple substitute, but I'm not sure it takes away all the objections,
All right.
Mr. Chairman.
Let's talk about it Monday then.
We'll give you a chance
okay
to
with that?
contemplate it quietly. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. All right, Senator Chafin?
Mr. Chairman, I don't know if Senator Chafin's here. He, as you remember, had a bill that took basically all of this VDOT money to his area for internet
Right,
services. That was a little difficult. He is still working on a substitute, and you can do, sir, whatever you'd like, but
Okay.
he's indicated that he may have something on Monday, sir.
Okay, without objection, then I would ask that we take Senate Bill 857 by for the day. Tommy, do you want to clear yours up first, or just going down the list, or jump beyond? Going to the list, okay. Senator Carrico, you got a bill? Senate Bill 804, yes, you do.
That one was rolled.
That's right, we're going to roll that in, okay, I got you. Senator Donovan, you want to deal with your bills?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm going to start with Senate Bill 845. And I'm actually going to ask that we pass this by for the day, but I do have some people that wish to speak to 844 that is also pending for Monday, but they traveled from Charlottesville, and I wonder if I could impose upon the committee for a few comments.
These individuals would want to speak to 844?
They would.
Okay, and you want to pass 845 by for the day?
Yes, sir.
Okay, without objection, 845 will go by for the day. And if you have some individuals here that want to speak to 844, since it had been previously scheduled, we'll hear some brief testimony. And Senator Donovan, if you could just share with us what the subject of Senate Bill 844 is.
Thank you so much. 844 is the mandated benefits bill that would mandate that health plans that are participating in a contract with the state government would also need to participate in the individual marketplace to create some competition for those hard-pressed areas where costs have escalated up to 70 to 80%.
Okay, thank you.
I don't know, but yeah, I would just stay brief and just, say the duress and we need to be creative.
Okay. Hi, my name is Sean Cosette. I live in Scottsville, Virginia, which is part of Albemarle County. I'm self-employed. I actually have a small business and have been self-employed or an owner of a small business for over 30 years and have always purchased insurance on the individual marketplace. And I do not qualify for a subsidy. In 2017, my individual health plan with Anthem cost me a premium of $550 a month. That's a yearly premium of $6,600. And with that, I had a $2,800 deductible. That was with Anthem. I've been with Anthem for over 30 years. For 2018, Anthem pulled out of our market, which left, I guess Optima moved into our market, which left only one insurer in our market for the first time. Also, Optima is owned by Centera, which owns Martha Jefferson, which is one out of two hospitals. Through Optima, for a bronze policy, which had a deductible of $7,200, my monthly premium went up to $1,395.65. And it goes on and on and on and increased. To have the comparable premium that I had in 2017, my monthly premium would have been $1,765.37. That's $21,531 a year. And that's with a $4,600 deductible. So as you can tell, it increased by 300%. Since I'm a small business owner and have one full-time employee, I was able to leave the individual marketplace. And now I have a group policy with Anthem. And as you know, the group policies have plenty of competition. Now I'm back to $550 a month for a monthly premium. I do have a higher deductible of $6,500, but I have a 0% copay after I meet the deductible. And it's also attached to a health savings account. And it's a PPO, which allows me to see pretty much any physician that I choose. So by having no competition in our market, we saw our rates just increase tremendously, and it's beyond, nobody can afford it. I mean, you would have to make $400,000 a year in order to afford this, and we desperately need your help and hope that you will vote in favor of this bill.
Okay, and 844, as it currently is drafted, will help you. Is that the deal?
Yes, by providing.
Okay, and it's a little unusual for us to take testimony like this because we're not going to hear the other side of the story right now, but if you come ahead, we'll.
My name's Ian Dixon. I'm a small business owner from Charlottesville. Similar story, my rates tripled. For a family of four, they went from under $1,000 last year to over $3,000 this year per month. Like Sean said, Optima Health is a monopoly. I'm part of a group of 700 people from Charlottesville who are formally disputing Optima Health's filings with the state, specifically how they rated the Charlottesville area. And these rates in Charlottesville are unprecedented, they're unsupported, and we believe that they're erroneous. The Bureau of Insurance is currently investigating their rates. Okay. And my point is, for the Bureau to regulate monopoly markets, it's very difficult when they're dealing with one insurer who's handing them a take it or leave it rate package, and it's a bad situation for consumers. Thank you.
Okay, well, thank you for traveling here today, and we're sorry we're not taking the bill up right now. Yes.
Hi, my name's Carol Wise, and I'm from Charlottesville, Virginia, too. I am an independent nonprofit consultant, just a solo practitioner. And last year, my health care premiums on the individual market were $600 a month with a $6,000 deductible. This year, with no notice, no warning whatsoever, when I opened what was the rates for the coming year, my rate went from $600 a month to $1,800 a month, with an increase in the deductible of $7,200. I have no other options. I'm a solo practitioner. Optima is the only choice. They have a monopoly in our area. This is not possible for people who are in small businesses or individuals buying their own health insurance. And we're asking for your help and support this bill or some bill that is fashioned like this. I find it very interesting that our tax dollars pay Medicare and Medicaid reimbursements to the insurance companies, and yet we are shut out of the very market where our tax dollars are paying for those reimbursements.
Thank you.
Okay, we have a couple other speakers to speak briefly.
Hi, I'm Sarah Stovall, also from Charlottesville. My family buys insurance on the individual market. Same story. Our rates tripled for this year, up to $36,000 a year with a $12,000 deductible. Again, for a healthy family of four. What I'd like to point out is that Optima Health, the only insurer available to us today, is offering the same bronze plan to the small business market. Same plan, same providers, at a third of the cost, because there are other competitors in that market. That's what we need. That is a really clear difference. It says to me that obviously what we need in the individual marketplace is some competition. So,
Okay.
thank you.
Thank you very much. And another speaker?
Thank you for hearing us. So my story is in 2017, on the individual market plan for my husband and me was $850 a month. In 2018, the least expensive plan would be $2,500 a month with an over $7,000 deductible each. And we never use our insurance, and so that's $30,000 annually for catastrophic health insurance. So we joined this group of over 750 people, all of us madly scrambling to figure out alternatives, and these were the alternatives that came up, none of which are really great. One, restricting our income to qualify for subsidies. Two, moving out of state. Closing our small businesses and finding jobs that offer insurance, going without insurance, or signing up for sketchy off-market plans. So what's happening in Charlottesville is just an example of what can happen when competition disappears. And we really need the competition that this bill or other bills like it will generate. I wanted to point out also, it doesn't just affect the individuals that have to pay this out of pocket, because if the premiums rise from lack of competition, the subsidies also rise. And the government picks up the tab, so all of your constituents' tax dollars are also going to pay for this rise in premiums. And we just feel that if the insurance companies are able to make billions of dollars, and actually sometimes make more revenue from government operations than from commercial customer operations, they should offer plans that are affordable for the individual. Thank you.
Okay, thank all of you all. I think Senator Newman has been working with Senator Donovan. Senator Newman, you
Just
have a comment?
briefly, to all of you that came, I know that Senator Donovan's bill, there's a part of that bill that really takes away the prohibition from those insurance companies coming back. In other words, it's state law that they can't come back. And under your bill, we're going to fix that hopefully next week. We're going to allow them to come back in. And Senator Donovan, also, I think that this really highlights the fact that we've really got a Medicaid problem, right? Because we need to do some things for that. But there's a lot of Virginians out there that are just struggling because they're in the individual market and they want to be responsible, want to take care of their own insurance, but we're not giving them the plans to be able to do that. I know that you and others on this committee, Senator Wagner and others are working to try to do that. And we hope to have a plan, we'll see by the end of this, that helps some of those people that are trying to help themselves, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Chairman,
Senator Wagner?
if I could add, we also have legislation moving forward that would allow the Chamber of Commerce to represent as an association. So if you're a member of the Chamber of Commerce, or if you're not, recommend. So hopefully, come later on this summer, there will be a plan offered by the Chamber, which would represent a very, very large group if you choose to join that group. I know the Chamber's excited about putting together, we're excited about carrying that legislation. There's also legislation moving its way forward that looks at the fact that we have here in the Commonwealth of Virginia protected and shielded not-for-profit hospitals from the antitrust laws of the Commonwealth, and in effect that has the same carryover effect to the national antitrust laws. We are removing that exemption because of the concerns that some of these not-for-profit hospitals may be acting like monopolies, and we need to have allow folks to come in and take a look at the operations to see if they are in fact acting like monopolies or not. So that, just to give you some idea that we're not silent to your issues, that we understand, and that we actually have many efforts moving forward in this session, including the one that Senator Donovan's carried. So thank you all very much.
Thank you, Senator Wagner. Yes, there are a lot of apples in the air, balls in the air that we're juggling now for trying to improve our healthcare delivery system across a broad spectrum. So hopefully we can make some improvements in it. Senator Donovan, you have another, and thank you all for coming.
Yes, thank you so much, Mr. Chairman and committee. They traveled and have families and businesses, so I'm so grateful. Yeah, and I'm going to make it easy now. We're going to go to Senate Bill 639.
It's okay.
Shared savings. This is something we've discussed in great detail, and it's a great concept. This is a way for the individual who is making decisions about how healthcare dollars are spent on their own plan to make better, more economical decisions, but it's not quite ready for prime time yet. So I'm going to ask you to continue it and send it to Merck.
Okay. What are we going to do? Oh, to some study?
Mr. Chairman, I would move that we carry it over until 2019 and request by letter that the subject matter be considered by Merck.
Okay.
Thank you.
Or the survivor of Merck.
The survivor of the son of Merck.
We have, I forget what we call it now. Okay, there's a motion that Senate Bill 639 be continued to the 2019 session. That's been seconded. Any further discussion? Hearing none. Clerk, open the roll.
Roll is open.
Record your votes. Clerk, close the roll.
I-16, no zero.
I-16, no zero. The bill will be carried over and studied in the meantime.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Maybe the son of Merck is the Joint Commission on Healthcare.
Healthcare oversight, right.
Yes, sir.
That's it.
And my last bill today is Senate Bill 631.
Okay.
And that's something that you've heard conversation about, and we've discussed in great detail in committee. And essentially, this is a small change in the community colleges to standardize the courses and curriculum and outcomes so that they are more universally accepted. And SHEV will be coordinating four-year institutions and our community college system to ensure that they meet all the benchmarks of quality. So there will be a guarantee if you get that core curriculum credential, you're not going to have to worry if it's going to be accepted no matter what four-year university you attend. It involves some other details and mapping that the 4 years are starting to do. This also does affect our dual enrollment system, which is administered by the community college system, and it will standardize likewise what we're doing in the dual enrollment system so that those credits will also be labeled passport and will be accepted at the four-year universities when we get everything right.
Okay. I believe you have a couple people that want to speak in favor of this, as they did Senator Sertivan's bill.
Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, I'm Kathy Bircher with the Virginia Education Association. This is, as you all know, a really big problem, especially for our high schools that are trying to offer these dual enrollments, and some of these commitments we're making to our students in the high schools aren't being followed through when they look at community colleges or beyond. So we are very grateful to the work for the Senate and the work they're doing on these bills and this issue and this problem. We're very supportive of Senator Donovan's bill.
Very good. A couple more quick comments.
Mr. Chairman, Tom Smith, the Superintendent Association. I'll be brief. We support the bill.
Very good. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. Mindy Carlin, Northern Virginia Chamber of Partnership, and we also support the bill.
Thank you.
Kim McKay, Virginia Chamber of Commerce, we support the bill.
Thank you.
Yes, Ellen Davenport, Virginia Community College System, we support this bill and appreciate your attention to it. And it is following the recommendations from the JLARC report that was issued this past September.
Okay. Anyone opposing the concept? Senator Newman, you've heard this earlier today, I believe.
We did. The recommendation would be that we roll Senate Bill 77 into Senate Bill 631 first, and then we'll have the amendment. So,
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, that's.
All right, there's a motion that we incorporate Senate Bill 77 into 631, listing Senator Sturtevant as the chief co-patron with Senator Donovan. Is there a second to that motion? Any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Oh, we're just doing the amendment now. Oh, because we're rolling a bill together? Okay. All right, we'll have a recorded vote on that. Clerk, open the roll. Cast your vote on consolidating the two bills. Clerk, close the roll. Ayes 16, no 0. We'll have then a substitute where the bills are rolled together. Senator Newman?
Mr. Chairman, this, I think we do need to put the clause on it. It's got about a $300,000 or so dollar potential cost. And
Mr.
so-
Chairman, to speak to that, that is to create the portal, which already exists. It is Wizard, and it is also how our veterans are using that portal to get into community college and translate their life experience into credits. And this is expanding it to be similar to other states where everything would be accessible to a student in one place and registering for everything. So we will speak to that in finance.
Right,
but-
right. We are showing, the staff is showing something in that magnitude, up to 661,000. If it's more minimal, or if we can come up with the money, then we'll go ahead and report that. So there's a motion. Was there a second to attach the fiscal contingency clause?
Second.
Okay. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor of attaching that clause signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? All right, what's the pleasure of the committee?
Move to report as amended.
Motion properly supported to report the bill, that is Senate Bill 631 as amended. Any further discussion? Hearing none, clerk open the roll.
Roll is open, sir.
Cast your votes. Clerk, close the roll.
Ayes 16, no 0.
Ayes 16, no 0. The bill is reported.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just wanted to recognize VCCS and Chev. Your community college and higher ed system was working on this before I even got involved. They're really extraordinary, and they really want to make this right for Virginia. So I
Right,
just have to
you're
recognize
carrying
them.
on for your predecessor who used to work on this a lot. Thank you. Let's see here. Continuing with members, Senator Howe.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I have Senate Bill 362. This is a
362.
bill the committee has seen before. It passed the Senate last year 36-4, and it's been through subcommittees and full committee already this session. What this bill does is set up a licensing for student loan servicers. As everyone knows, there have been some very predatory behaviors with some of the servicers of student loans. And there's also been some very careless practices by some of them. What we're trying to do here is protect our student loan borrowers, set up standards that need to be followed by the servicers, and require a licensing. The cost will be absorbed by the fees paid by the servicers, so there's a small non-general fund cost, but it is non-general fund.
Good. Thank you, Senator Howe, for your explanation. Anyone here to speak to this bill? Anyone here in opposition to the bill? Oh.
Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, Preston Bryant with McGuire Woods Consulting on behalf of the Student Loan Servicers Alliance. These are the folks who would be addressed by this bill, so thank you for giving me a moment to explain the impact. First, we thank Senator Howell for her continued focus on the student loan debt challenge across the country. There's $1.4 trillion of student debt out there. 1.3 trillion of that is federal. So more than 90% of all loans are federal. In Virginia, just to put it in context, there are about 981,000 borrowers. So that, and many of them have multiple loans, so that puts things in context. Student loans are entirely and extensively federally regulated, not state regulated. And that's the way it should be, again, since the vast majority, 90+%, are federal loans. So we wonder how state licensing and regulatory effort will maybe, accomplish anything of substance. Let me say, just for context also, what student loan servicers do and don't do. What they do is they are the back office processors of student loans. To the extent people still mail a check, they are the ones who slit open the envelope and process the check. They process electronic payments. They're the ones who answer the phone when a borrower calls with a question. Importantly, what do they don't do? They don't set amounts that are borrowed. They don't set fees or penalties. They don't set interest rates. They don't set terms to loans. They don't even set the process that governs the way in which borrowers and the servicers interact. All of that is set by regulation with the federal government. Let me raise, the Student Loan Servicing Alliance is about 20 members. They're about 30 or 40 nationwide, but they're about 20 members, so it's not a big industry. Some of the members who do this are very large companies. Others are small and nonprofits. An important thing to note, however, is a number of student loan servicers are other state agencies. For example, I'll get the names wrong, but the Oklahoma Student Loan Authority or the Vermont Higher Ed Loan Authority. So a practical question is raised for you to consider is, can the State Corporation Commission require another state's agency to be licensed and pay fees and put up a $500,000 bond and such to operate and service loans in Virginia? Also, some of the small nonprofits, they may have quite literally 5 or 6 loans only in Virginia. So they don't have a choice but to service those loans because they have the contract to do so. So they may have to pay thousands of dollars in fees to service five accounts. So for all of those reasons, we oppose the bill and ask that you not advance it.
Okay. Are there others here to speak in opposition to this particular measure? Okay, we want to summarize,
Yes,
Senator Howe?
Mr. Chairman, I just had passed out to you some news reports on the practices of some of the servicers. There are articles from the New York Times, from NBC, from CBS, from the Washington Post, from Forbes, and others about the scuzzy practices that some servicers engage with. And the victims of this are our constituents. So I think we have an obligation to these young people to make sure they have good information and that the servicers that they have to deal with, and they have no choice as to who their servicer is. They are assigned a servicer and they cannot change that. Their loans can be passed on to another servicer, but they can't change any of that. And I think we need to provide some protections for our students. And I hope you'll forward this bill, which only has a non-general fund impact.
Okay, thank you, Senator Howe. What's the pleasure of the committee? Senator Newman?
Mr. Chairman, we heard this in our committee and in the Subcommittee of Higher Education. Preston's concerned about other states we've not heard. Maybe you can work with Preston on other states as the bill goes through, but I would hope that we will report the bill.
Motion properly supported. Senator Howe, I've got good news for you. There were only 2 members of this committee that voted against it last year. Maybe they won't remember they did. So we'll see. Is there further discussion? Hearing none. Clerk, open the roll.
Roll is open, sir.
Cast your votes. They forgot. The bill is reported. 16-0. Clerk, close the roll. Thank you. Okay. Senator McDougal.
Mr. Chairman, this was bill yesterday. There was a question about the physical impact potentially to the Northern Virginia Transportation Authority. And I think Senator Norman appointed Senator Barker as a committee of one to review this. Senator Barker reported to me in his very diligent committee, whether you like the bill or not, it did not impact his concerns. So they were all alleviated.
Okay.
The committee of one did find that the assertion that there might be an impact for Northern Virginia transportation mines did not pan out. So Senator McDougal is correct, and that does not have that issue. So.
Move to report. Motion properly supported. Anyone here in the audience to speak for or against the bill? Seeing no one, there is a motion properly supported that Senate Bill 823 be reported. Clerk, open the roll. Cast your votes. Clerk, close the roll. Okay, the bill is reported, 12-3. Senator Norman.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. First, I would like to take up Senate Bill 299, and I have about a 42-minute presentation on that, sir.
Okay. Yeah.
But just to spare you the misery, if Senator Howe would make a motion to pass this by for the year, I will accept that as an alternative to my presentation.
You want to continue to 2019?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Okay. There's a motion properly supported that Senate Bill 299 be continued to 2019, so we won't have to hear Senator Norman talk about it. Clerk, open the roll. Cast your votes. Senator, you want to get yours vote? He's got it out there, I think. Okay, clerk, close the roll. Ayes 16, no zero. The bill is continued to 2019.
Mr. Chairman, and next, if I could invite the committee to look at Senate Bill 942, and I have an amendment in the nature of a substitute.
Okay. If our motion probably supported to adopt the substitute, all those in favor say aye. Any opposed? All right, the amendment in the nature of a substitute is in front of us.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'll try to be as abbreviated as I can. Living down in Hampton Roads, you may recall that we imposed on ourselves a regional transportation tax to do highway infrastructure where the monies are sequestered, and enormous strides have been made down there in the widening of 64. The historic triangle is highly dependent upon the tourism and visitor attendance, and for a number of years I have been looking at ways to try to infuse more money into the marketplace to help tourism all across Virginia. After watching the HR TAC and what we've done on the regional transportation money, I decided the time had come to stop whining about trying to get state dollars and engage in self-help. While I was considering that, the city of Williamsburg, in an effort to generate more revenues for what they called a tourism development fund, enacted three taxes. They enacted an emissions tax, which for the first time in that part of Virginia would have imposed a tax on admissions. And regretfully, the only significant recipient of that tax imposition would have been the Colonial Williamsburg Foundation, because Busch Gardens is in James City County. They also passed an ordinance that increased the meals tax on it. And thirdly, Mr. Chairman, the City Council of Williamsburg passed a tax increasing the transient occupancy tax. Well, that really got me thinking, and for the first time in 28 years in the Senate, I appeared in front of an elected public body in the 3rd Senatorial District, well, actually just outside of it, to express my displeasure. Because we, in the historic triangle, which is Williamsburg, James City County, and York County, rely so heavily upon tourism as our main economic engine, Senator Saslaw has captured all the data centers, and we haven't been able to gather one of those just yet. We need to, and the Colonial Williamsburg Foundation, which is obviously the major attraction, needs to put more money in the marketplace. And so I came up with this idea that is encompassed in Senate Bill 942. What it does is it repeals the City Council of Williamsburg's increase on the transient occupancy tax. It repeals the increase in the meals tax. It repeals the admissions tax. And in place of that, there will be an increase of 1% on the sales tax in the historic triangle. And I will say, while I've been tweaking this bill as we go along, that there has not been any opposition from the historic triangle on this piece of legislation. And I have worked with all three localities and the major attractions, the local hotel, motel industry, the local restaurant industry, and have enjoyed support of that. So I know some of my colleagues are reticent to vote for any increase in any tax, no matter where it occurs in proximity to their jurisdiction. But I suggest to you, I doubt if you've seen many or any bills where three taxes were eliminated and replaced by a single tax that was supported by the local governments. And so I can go through a lot of other stuff, but that's the bottom line.
Okay. It is kind of a unique arrangement. The Historic Triangle is a unique area, of course. Is anyone here to speak to the bill other than Senator Norman? Anyone here to speak in opposition to the bill? Okay. A lot of moving parts here. Are you comfortable with the fact that you are going to net out a positive revenue after you do all of that?
It is going to net out a positive revenue, and one of the localities maybe yesterday said they wanted to be sure that there was a reasonable accountability on the expenditure of the funds. And so with Lisa's help, we included in there that there will be an annual report to the Williamsburg City Manager, James City County, and York County County Administrators, to the Chairman of Finance, and to the Chairman of House Appropriations.
Okay. All right, the bill is in front of us. Members, y'all have questions here. Now's your time to badger Senator Norman.
I move be reported.
You gonna let him off that easy? Okay. All right, there's a motion properly supported to report the bill. That is Senate Bill 942, which makes a number of changes in the historic triangle and replaces it with a 1% state sales and use tax. Any further discussion? Hearing none, clerk, open the roll.
Roll is open, sir.
Cast your votes. Does anyone have Senator Vogel's proxy or Senator Newman's? She doesn't want a proxy. Okay, I got you. All right, clerk, close the roll. Ayes 10, noes 4. The bill is reported.
Where's Waldo?
Thank you, Senator Norman. Okay, we are, I know a good bit of work went into that particular measure, and now we're down to Senator Obenchain.
Mr. Chairman, I think that Senator Newman may have a motion with respect to my bill, which
Okay.
I believe is undergoing a little bit of refinement.
Okay. Senator Newman, do you have a motion on Senate Bill 516?
Mr. Chairman, I do. As all of you know, we have been continuing to work on the regional charter bill for the state, and Senator Obenchain has been a tremendous advocate for it. I think we may hopefully have a vehicle to look long-term at the big issues here, which is the future of public education, and Senator Obenchain is acquiesced, I guess, to being willing to let that go there. So therefore, I would move that Senate Bill 516 be carried over for the year and the subject matter being sent to the future of public education.
Okay. And you agree with that? You're going to work on this plan, I suppose, for a while? Okay. Okay. All right, we have a motion properly supported that Senate Bill 516 be carried over with a continuing effort to come up with a measure that will develop an appropriate approach to regional charter school divisions. Any further discussion? Hearing none, clerk open the roll. Cast your votes. Clerk, close the roll. Clerk, close the roll. I think we got it. As 16, no 0, the bill is continued to 2019. Does that include all except my bill with Caraco's and then the transportation? Okay. I've got one bill to take care of and then the Transportation Committee.
All right, Mr. Chairman, I believe you had Senate Bill 580, sir, if you would like to present that.
We ain't got no problem. We ain't got no problem.
Mr. Chairman, we have a substitute for Senate Bill.
Senator Howell
580.
moves and Senator Newman seconds the adoption of the amendment in the nature of the substitute. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye.
Okay, and Mr. Chairman, you will note on our docket there today, Senator Caraco had a data bill dealing with opiates and gathering appropriate data. Senator Caraco, you want to address your bill? The substitute does, as we discussed, roll your bill into this one.
Senator Caraco, would it be your intention to roll 804 into this, sir?
Mr. Chairman, simply what my bill did that got rolled in was allow the collection of data reported to the Office of the Medical Examiner of any deaths or any incidents occurring with any opioids such as naloxone that was being prescribed and used, and the deaths that were occurring because of the heroin issue and the prescription and the access to the naloxone. A lot of situations were happening in law enforcement, which the data will be collected from them also, where the naloxone was being used as a effort for them to have a security that you can come to a heroin party and it will have a naloxone dealer or administrator on site. And this will give us an opportunity to collect that data and make sure that that naloxone has been prescribed and obtained by the people that are using it for what it was prescribed to do for will be done in a proper manner.
Mr. Chairman, so with that, just a brief overview of this particular bill. It has become somewhat of an omnibus bill. It creates in the Office of the Secretary of Administration the position of Chief Data Officer. It will be necessary, in addition to this bill, if you choose to report it, to within our budget have budget language that will eliminate the Secretary of Technology and make a couple other movements that will allow the funding of this position. It has an enactment clause that will set up essentially an advisory group that will stand up this effort. What it attempts to do, and there are numerous people that have been involved with this, I would note, and different interest groups that were involved in requesting different elements of this as it came together. Senator Edwards, Senator Donovan, who continues to play a role in this, Senator Caraco, and Senator Barker as well, for initiatives that would essentially tear down silos and help us to pool our data resources, essentially to provide help with fraud and abuse, if we're talking about such things as Medicaid and sharing data, and many other things that we're being able to pool our resources into one central location will be helpful. In the enactment clause, there are some initiatives that are targeted at substance abuse, and certainly if one of the other members that have their bills rolled into this want to speak to that, I'd be glad to hear, if the chair would entertain that, we would allow them.
I have a preliminary question, if I would. Senator Hanger, would you prefer that the advisory commission either have 16 people or 18 people?
Does it speak to both?
Well, you've got 17 there, but somehow
You know what?
I think the speaker must have gotten in your ear.
Okay, we can, I
Equalize.
think, what happened to that, and I would, staff is always good, but Lisa has spent many, many hours putting this thing together, and Senator Donovan has been asking her to do different things with it recently, so we might have got crossways in the roads on the
Well, I
number.
tell you what, I could make a motion that'll cure it. I was just trying to be respectful of whether you
Right,
wanted
we've,
more or less, sir.
no, we don't have a specific number. In fact, that's been the most recent subject of conversation.
Less.
Senator Donovan, where did you
I'll
want
tell
it
you
to
what,
be?
Senator.
Wagner makes a motion
Senator
less.
Wagner moves to reduce it to 16, and that there will be 2 members from the Senate now and 2 from the House. So
Okay,
on line 117, where it says 3 members of the House of Delegates will now be reduced to 2. And I'm sure I heard Senator Howell second that.
I did.
Thank you so very much. All those in favor of that motion, please signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed, and those amendments are adopted. Yes, sir. Now,
thank you, Mr. Chairman. With that, unless there may be individuals here to speak to it, but it's been a work product for many people that have been involved with it, and we will need to, if we do pass this, then craft some budget language, as I suggested, to eliminate the Secretary of Technology and make a couple other adjustments in the administration.
Senator Hanger, did you have anyone that wanted to speak on behalf of this, sir?
We didn't request anyone. Former Secretary Hazel has been a part of this from the incubation stage, and he's not here today. Oh, there we go. I'm from the administration. Yes, there you are. The administration is working with us on this as well.
Good evening, Mr. Chair, members of the committee. I'm Lauren Schmidt on behalf of the administration, and we do support this, and we want to thank Senator Hanger and Senator Donovan, Senator Barker, and Edwards for working with us on this. Thank you.
Why does the administration support this?
Because it's creating the chief data officer, and we think it's really important to break down the silos that are existing right now so that we can share data between all the different agencies and secretariats.
I was just testing you to see if you knew.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
Thank you, Larry. Thank you, Larry.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, Mark Smith with George Mason University. We also support the bill.
Thank you, sir. Good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. Members of the committee, my name is Troy Murphy with the Northern Virginia Technology Council. We also support this legislation.
Thank you for joining us. Anyone who has a contrary opinion? I didn't expect so. So, ladies and gentlemen, I'm sorry, Senator Hanger, is Senator Carrico's Bill 804 roll within?
Yes, it's in the substitute. We've already, Lisa's already, you already drew it into the substitute, didn't you? To roll it in? Mr. Chairman, I would move that we incorporate Senate Bill 804 into Senate Bill 580.
Senator Carrico seconds it. So all in favor of rolling Senator Carrico's Senate Bill 804 into Senate Bill 580, record your vote on the board, please.
And the roll is open.
Report the vote.
I-16-0.
Senate Bill 804 is rolled into Senate Bill 580. A motion would be appropriate to adopt the amendment in the nature of the substitute as amended.
So moved.
Been moved and seconded. Any discussion? Hearing none. If you would show your vote on the board, please. If you would report the vote, please.
I-16-0.
Congratulations, Senator Hanger.
Thank you, Senator Norman, and members of the committee.
Senator Wagner.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Your Transportation Subcommittee had worked last evening on a series of bills that I believe are very, very important for the future of transportation here in the Commonwealth of Virginia. The first one I'd like to take up is Senate Bill 583, Senator Hanger's bill.
Okay.
And what Senator Hanger's bill does is set up the Western Virginia Transportation Fund. This is a fund patterned after the highly successful Hampton Roads Transportation Accountability Commission to set up a dedicated source of revenue.
Let me interrupt you.
Yeah.
I would move the amendment in the nature of the substitute.
I'm sorry, yeah, there is a
Okay,
substitute
is there a
on that.
second? All those in favor of adopting the substitute signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Okay, we have the
Okay,
substitute in front
substitute's
of us.
before us, and I'll continue on. It sets up a fund, and it applies a 2.1% regional fuels tax on the floor that was originally established, the statewide floor of gasoline that was originally established in House Bill 2313 4 years ago. And with that, Mr. Chairman, it's estimated that the bill will generate an additional $20 million to be used for Interstate 81. As we all know, if you had the opportunity to drive or attempt to drive up and down Interstate 81, you'll understand that the need is very critical. And Senator Hanger has come out and patterned himself after that. It also defines a commission to represent this particular board. It's a 53-member commission simply because there's so many localities up and down 81, Mr. Chairman, and I would propose one more amendment to that substitute, if I could.
Yes,
Let's we'll
yes,
reduce
Senator
that down
Wagner.
to 52 members, if we could. I would propose that amendment, Mr. Chairman, to equalize the amount of senators and delegates that are part of the
So
commission.
moved.
Okay, there's a motion to equalize the representation of delegates and senators. Is there a second? Second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thanks,
And
Senator Wagner.
while, Mr. Chairman, it might seem a bit unwieldy at 53 members, I can assure you that we have a very large contingent on the Hampton Roads Transportation Accountability Commission, and it does work. And so with that, Mr. Chairman, by a vote of 4-2, your subcommittee voted to report the bill, and I would so move.
Thank you, Senator Wagner. And I would take the liberty of just saying that Senator 81 has significant issues that need to be addressed. There's another initiative that I think Senator Obenchain is offering, which will have a study, truck-only tolls, and I would hope that that will advance as well, Senator Wagner. But thank you for your work on this. Is there anyone here to speak in opposition to this bill or concerns?
Concerns, I think, would be the best way
Okay.
to say that. Number one, I wanted to say thank you for including the cents per gallon language back in this bill that was not in last night's. I'm Mike O'Connor with Virginia Petroleum Marketers. Our objections to this bill are the fact that it's going to set up a patchwork quilt of fuels taxes throughout the Commonwealth. This passes 75% of the state lives in an area with an additional about 6.6 cents per gallon. If it was statewide, I wouldn't be up here.
Okay. Thank you very much. Senator Wagner?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and just to kind of wrap this one up, we had that discussion last night, and it was pointed out that when we try to do something statewide, the concern amongst many folks is that by the time it's vetted through HB2, perhaps that money never reaches the areas of the state where some of it's raised from. This ensures that this money is going to be raised to focus on one issue and one issue only, and that's improvements to Interstate 81 from Bristol all the way to Winchester. So with that, Mr. Chairman, I'll renew my motion to report the substitute as amended.
Okay, was there a second? Okay, motion properly supported that on the recommendation of the Transportation Subcommittee that Senate Bill 583 be reported. Any further discussion? Hearing none. Clerk, open the roll. Cast your votes. Clerk, close the roll. Ayes 10, noes 5. The bill is reported. Thank you,
Thank you,
Wagner.
Mr. Chairman. The
I
next
think you
bill
got-
is the very large bill that addresses WMATA, but to get it in the proper shape, I would first make a motion that we roll Senator Barker's bill number 393 into Senator Saslaw's bill number 856, and I would make that motion, Mr. Chairman.
Second.
All right, I think that would require a recorded vote. There's a motion properly supported to roll Senator Barker's bill, Senate Bill 393, into Senator Saslaw's Bill 856. Clerk, open the roll. Roll is open, sir. Cast your votes. Clerk, close the roll.
Ayes 16, no 0.
Ayes 16, no 0. The substitute is in front of us combined.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and there's an amendment in nature substitute in front of you, and I would so move that we adopt that as amendment in nature substitute.
Second.
Motion properly supported to adopt Senate Bill 856, amendment in nature substitute, which has incorporated both bills. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay.
Thank
Senator
you,
Wagner?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. If you followed any issues at all around the Commonwealth of Virginia, you know that the metro system in Northern Virginia is basically falling apart. And it's been identified that both Washington, D.C., as well as the Commonwealth of Virginia and the Commonwealth of Maryland are going to have to make a substantial investment in just the state of good repair to keep the system operational. It is absolutely essential to the economy in Northern Virginia, and quite frankly, Mr. Chairman, the economy of Virginia is absolutely essential to the economy in Northern Virginia is absolutely essential to the economy across the Commonwealth. I will note, Mr. Chairman, as I go through this bill, that 90%, more than 90% of the effort is all coming from Northern Virginia to help themselves. Some of it's a redirect, some of it's new revenues, and a small portion of that is statewide revenues, as quite frankly originally earmarked for Northern Virginia anyway. So with that, Mr. Chairman, Senate Bill 856, the bill before you, generates about $154 million in new money dedicated to the state of good repair. It provides $44 million with an increase in the state transportation, or the Northern Virginia transit occupancy tax, increasing it from a current 2% level to a 3% level. It includes $29.9 million based on the grantor's tax, increasing it by 10 cents per hundred. It directs $18.6 million annually from the regional motor fuels tax that's currently going there. It also provides a floor on the fuels tax. That money is also directed there, and I believe that's another $30 million. It commits $30 million from the existing state recordation and motor vehicle rental taxes currently dedicated to the transportation programs. It directs that money to be put into this fund also, and it requires an additional $31 million commitment from the jurisdictions in Northern Virginia, and that's how we get to $154 million, Mr. Chairman. Let me kind of go into a few things that come up. First of all, there's none of these taxes or none of this money is imposed unless Washington, D.C. and Maryland come through with their ends of the obligations. Without that, nothing goes through. There are significant new controls in here. If the WMATA system does not meet certain goals and requirements, i.e. keeping your expenses to 3% or less increase per year, and meeting a number of other matrix that are written into this bill, then a significant portion of this money fails to go to WMATA. That's in keeping with kind of a past track record of some somewhat suspect management of the WMATA monies. There was a study by former Ray LaHood, who was commissioned to do an extensive top-to-bottom study, and many of the recommendations that he's made is incorporated into the, if you will, strings attached to continue to get this funding. It also consolidates and recodifies the use of mass transit funding, and there is a one-time sale of Commonwealth project revenue bonds to the tune of $50 million. That's a significant change from the $100 million obligation over 5 years that was in the original bill. And it also includes a new, call it what you want, it's got a fancy name, but we'll call it the Uber Lyft tax, okay? And to break it down, it's a transit network company services tax, okay? And that tax will be applied statewide and also replenish the mass transit fund statewide to be used by every locality. There's a lot more detail. I could go on a little bit longer. I know there's people here that wish to speak to it, but I want to close out by one comment. Whoever notified somebody and told them that I had somehow removed money from this bill, I would ask you to please call it. You've locked up my phone system up there with phone calls, and if there's been any bigger proponent outside of Washington area to support this, I'd like to know what that name is. But any more phone calls, I may switch my vote on this one, Mr. Chairman.
Okay.
But let me just put it that way. I know the secretary's here, I'm sure, and Nick Donahue. There are a number of people that like to speak.
Okay, we invite them to speak. We certainly want to hear from them, and we'll also want to hear from Senator Sasslaw and Senator Barker.
And just to close out,
y'all want to close it out after we hear from them?
The vote was 4-2 to report, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, all right, very good. Madam Secretary?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. The administration strongly supports this bill. WMATA is the second busiest transit system in the country. It is a $40 billion asset. It is the only transit system that doesn't have a dedicated source of funding. We are in a unique position to have DC, Maryland, and Virginia all recognizing that the system needs to be fixed. The reforms that have been proposed today actually go far beyond what was in the Ray LaHood report, and it holds WMATA accountable, not just in print, but in our ability to withhold funding if performance and safety and reliability is not communicated to the General Assembly and the governor every year. So with that, I thank you very much, and I do thank Senator Wagner, Senator Saslow, Senator Barker, and many of you on the committee who helped to make this a good bill.
Thank you very much.
Mr. Chairman.
Senator, excuse me.
Here, right here.
Oh, okay. Yeah, Senator Carrico, sorry.
Mr. Chairman, I'd just like to ask the Secretary a couple of things. You know, we've had several conversations about this, and I've had a lot of conversations about the Metro, and I understand the problems there. I was informed by the Patron without this bill that the governor's prepared to remove construction dollars from other districts across the state. And just wanted to hear from you that that's what the governor is planning on doing if this bill doesn't pass. Take the construction dollars that are set up through the smart scale system from other parts of the transportation districts to fund the 154 in for this WMATA.
Mr. Chairman, Senator Carrico, I have never heard the governor say that. I know that Metro is very important, not only to Northern Virginia, but the Commonwealth. But we also believe that smart scale is important because it provides a way for regions all over Virginia to compete and secure funding.
So, Mr. Chairman.
Senator Carrico?
So having been a former Commonwealth Transportation Board member, you do understand that the reason for smart scale was to take the politics out of construction dollars. So you would, of your estimate, taking that from the rest of Virginia would not be what that smart scale was set up to do.
Mr. Chairman, I will tell you that smart scale, I helped to craft it and implement it in my district and working with my CTB members, that we really believe that this process, while not perfect, is one that has created transparency and has helped us actually invest in every region of Virginia in the best way possible, given our limited resources.
Right.
So it's a process that we certainly want to protect, which we've been trying to do, throughout this session.
Okay.
I think
Carrico?
the Secretary, and I'm going to have some further questions, not for her, but for some others.
Okay, thank you, Senator Carrico. Senator Norman?
Mr. Chairman, Senator Carrico's question sort of triggered that very benign lawyer side of me. So if I could ask two questions, one following up on Senator Carrico. Have you had a specific discussion with the governor as to whether or not he would consider taking transportation dollars from other parts of the state if they did not support this?
Are you saying,
I'm asking you.
Oh, you're asking me?
Yes, ma'am. Have you had a specific discussion with him about that?
I will tell you that the discussion that I've had with the governor is how can we find $154 million to support Metro? In no way did the governor indicate to me that we could, or it didn't come up that any money would be taken from existing projects that have been programmed through the 6-year plan.
Mr. Chairman, let me try it
Senator
another
Norman.
way. Has there been an explicit? No,
Mr. Chairman,
excuse
let me just say something. The governor told me that he would not let that fail.
Okay.
He
Senator
Would not let it fail?
Excuse me,
Yeah.
Senator Norman has the floor, and now I'll get you, Senator Saslow.
My question to you, has the governor explicitly stated to you that he would not consider taking money from other parts of the state? Not that it was left out of the conversation, but has he made an affirmative statement to you?
No, sir. I will say that conversation, my conversations with the governor have been to try to find a way to save Metro. And what has been very important to everyone here is that we, on a bipartisan basis, address the fact that Metro turned 30 in 2006, and all of these state of good repair needs have not been addressed. That is important, and that is what I have been asked to do.
Mr. Chairman. New subject matter. As I was listening to my brother, Senator Wagner, about his phones getting jammed up, I'm trying to determine whether or not those multiple calls were initiated by the administration or they were initiated by some overzealous government relations individual who might be advocating on behalf of a client on this.
I'm sorry, and your question is?
My question is, did the administration participate in all these phone calls?
Mr. Chairman, I assure you that I have never even heard of a call until Senator Wagner mentioned this at this point,
Well,
ever.
Mr. Chairman, maybe as some government relations people come forward, we'll find out who's responsible for that.
Okay, thank you. Okay, had you concluded your remarks?
I have. I will just say thank you very much. This is an important asset in Virginia. Thank you.
Thank you, thank you. Okay, others to speak in support of this.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Paul Wiedefeld, the General Manager of Metro. First and foremost, I just want to reinforce that my commitment for accountability and driving costs down at this system, and we will continue that. We've done it the last 2 years, and we'll continue it into the future. This bill really is about the future of the system and getting it back to the state of good that we need it to be. It is critical, the work that we're talking about from a safety perspective and a service reliability perspective. Unfortunately, if we don't do this, the only option I have is to turn to reducing service and to raising fares because we cannot ignore the safety needs of the system.
Okay,
Thank you, sir.
thank you. I, for one, certainly appreciate the job you're doing up there.
Thanks, sir.
Thank you. Yes, next. Anybody? Okay. Madam Chair Lady.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Sharon Bulova, Chairman of the Fairfax County Board of Supervisors. Fairfax County strongly supports dedicated funding and governance reforms for WMATA in order to ensure the success of this critical transit system. We appreciate the efforts being made by Senator Saslaw and Senator Barker and Secretary Valentine on this issue this session. Metro Rail is vital to transportation networks and economic growth in the Northern Virginia area and in the Commonwealth of Virginia. Sufficient state support is needed to address state of good repair and to help accommodate additional growth in Fairfax County and in Northern Virginia, which is important to the entire Commonwealth. According to an analysis by the Northern Virginia Transportation Commission, NVTC, the 85,000 households and 130,000 jobs supported by Metro and the Virginia Railway Express, the VRE, generate over $600 million in general fund revenues for the Commonwealth. In Virginia, local jurisdictions are responsible for providing substantial funding for WMATA. In fiscal year 2016, fares plus regional and local funding totaled $392 million for WMATA operations and $26 million more for WMATA capital. So these are local and regional funds. We are happy to do our part because we know how critical Metro is to our residents and to the economy. And we are pleased to work with our business community on this vital issue. But we also need your help. And we look forward to continuing to work with you to make Metro Rail stronger, to restore Metro to a state of good repair, and to keep Metro in a state of good repair and restore it as the world-class system that it once was. Thank you so much, Mr. Chairman.
Is there anyone else, Nick, before you give us a rundown, maybe we'll get a couple other people that quickly could make comments. Yes.
Very quickly, Mr. Chairman, Marty Noe, Chairman of the Northern Virginia Transportation Authority. On behalf of the entire region, including my jurisdiction, which is not a member of Metro, we do see this as the single most important issue affecting our region right now and are grateful to the patrons and those senators who've worked with us to get a bill that we can live with. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay.
My name is Jim Dyke, and I'm here with Kim McKay from the State Chamber of Commerce, and we strongly support this effort to address preparing a dedicated funding source for Metro. We think it's absolutely essential for the Virginia's economy, and we applaud the Senate for stepping up on this issue.
Thank you, Jim. Appreciate you being here.
Good evening, Mr. Chair and members of the committee. Mike Forehand with the Northern Virginia Chamber of Commerce, also speaking on behalf of the Metro Now Coalition, which is a group of business organizations and not-for-profit groups from across Greater Washington working collaboratively in Virginia, Maryland, and D.C. to advance this issue this session. Obviously, we know Virginia is a piece of a larger puzzle in addressing this issue for Metro, and we are committed to pushing this forward. Our two broad goals are $154 million and dedicated funding for Metro this session, along with reform to the governance structure of the WMATA board. I won't belabor the point. We've heard from many folks about how important this is. I'll leave you with one main statistic. Over the past 5 years, 72% of commercial development in Northern Virginia has been within half a mile of a Metro station. Over the next 5 years, 100% of commercial development in Northern Virginia will be within half a mile of a Metro station. It is critical to our economic development. It is critical to our ability to land Amazon, as I know most around this table would love to see happen. One of their 4 priorities was ensuring that there was access to reliable public transit. And by funding Metro, by making sure that it is viable for years to come, we will demonstrate that we're able to lead on this key regional issue. We know there are many stakeholders that are invested in this and want to make sure that this conversation continues to move forward. So we would urge you to help continue these conversations and advance the bill so these conversations can continue. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Maybe we could have a series of brief comments then of support.
Thank you. Matt Letourneau from the Loudoun County Board of Supervisors, also speaking on behalf of the Northern Virginia Transportation Commission today, NVTC. The legislation is consistent with many of the principles that NVTC has outlined. I would remind the committee that if nothing happens, if the General Assembly is not able to come to an agreement, the burden on localities is enormous. And that means real tax increases for our citizens. So we look to you for help. This legislation advances the discussion, helps continue moving the ball forward. So we thank you for your consideration.
Thank you. Okay, next.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. Mindy Carlin, representing the Northern Virginia Chamber Partnership, 6 chambers of commerce in Northern Virginia. We strongly support efforts to move this legislation forward to ensure we can have a efficient, safe, and fully funded metro system.
Just Cindy. Senator Norman.
Thank you.
Mindy.
My question was, did you have any participation in the calls flooding Senator Wagner's office?
Mr. Chairman, Senator Norman, absolutely not.
Thank you.
Okay, Mindy, you're not guilty. Okay, we'll find. Okay. All right. Next.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman and members of the committee. My name is Dave Snyder. I'm president of the Virginia Transit Association. We represent transit providers all across this great Commonwealth. The fact of the matter is that as important as this bill is to Metro, it's also important to the other transit providers in each and every one of your districts and throughout the Commonwealth of Virginia. This is not just a Metro bill. The fact of the matter is that there are key provisions that relate to supporting the transit systems all across this Commonwealth: Roanoke, Blacksburg, Bristol, Lynchburg, Petersburg, Harrisonburg, Charlottesville, and on and on and on. So by enacting this legislation, you'll also be helping those transit providers throughout the Commonwealth in addition to Metro.
Thank you very much. Okay.
Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, Miles Laurie on behalf of the Northern Virginia Technology Council, we thank you for moving this important issue forward. We look forward to continuing to be involved in those discussions. Thank you.
Thank you. Senator Norman.
Mr. Laurie, you have any participation in the barrage of phone calls to Senator Wagner?
Mr. Chairman, Senator Norman, I would much rather talk to Senator Howell than to either one of y'all, quite frankly, so no.
Thank you. All right. Okay. All right, we'll move it along, Hen.
Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, I'm Mary Beth Coyer, representing the Northern Virginia Association of Realtors, Dulles Association, and the Prince William Association. We also applaud you and please ask you to move the bill forward, and we want to be part of the negotiations or the continuing discussion. Our comment on the bill is that there's been a reliance. We've been involved since 2006 and 2013 in moving the transportation bills forward. And my members are simply concerned, given the tax reform in the federal government, what is this going to do to the marketplace? So If there's any wiggle room, we would ask that that be reduced, the grantor's tax. But we certainly applaud the bill and are fully supportive of Metro and moving forward.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, Joe Wertz, Virginia Restaurant Lodging and Travel Association. We definitely recognize the importance of Metro and the impact it has, the substantial impact it has on the region. We are certainly supportive of moving this forward. We're supportive of the rededication of the transient occupancy tax currently imposed in the region. We do have some concerns about the additional TOT tax being applied and the impact it would have on our industry, but we look forward to working with everyone moving forward. And I also was not responsible for the calls.
Thank you. Thank you.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. Amy Perrin-Seibert on behalf of the Virginia Railway Express. We appreciate being part of this conversation as well as being funded in this bill, and we appreciate it. And want to be part of the conversation moving forward, and also was not part of the phone calls.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Before I get you and Senator Saslaw to just give us a quick overview of all the details, there have been a couple concerns raised, so I'd like just a couple people to come forward that want to express concern about a couple of the components.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. My name is Edward Mullen, and I'm here on behalf of Uber Technologies, speaking in opposition to portions of the bill dealing with the statewide application of the sales and use tax to TNC passenger carrier service. The Commonwealth has had a smart and sensible ride-sharing regulation on the books since 2015. Uber enjoys a home here and is honored to help serve Virginians with reliable, affordable transportation. We are particularly grateful to the Commonwealth and to this General Assembly for the strong support you've shown us over time. You've been wonderful partners of ours. As a company, Uber is a strong supporter of public transportation. Many of our riders, particularly in underserved suburban and rural communities, use Uber when other options are limited or as a first last-mile bridge to connect with public transit. Moreover, Uber actively encourages riders to also use public transportation, and studies have indicated people who use Uber are more likely to also use public transit. With our public policy, we believe we should be encouraging more Virginians to share their ride through Uber and use Uber to connect to public transportation, not discourage ride sharing by taxing them for that service. To be clear, Uber strongly supports a dedicated funding stream for Metro to ensure residents have world-class public transit system, a world-class public transit system, and access to affordable transportation options. But we absolutely should not, in our view, be targeting one specific industry and penalizing their riders who rely on ride-sharing for affordable and reliable transportation. Uber is committed to working with the General Assembly, the administration, and local bodies to ensure that our communities have a healthy and robust transportation system, but respectfully believe that there are better and more efficient ways to achieve that shared goal. We look forward to engaging in those conversations, but we respectfully request that you not include a tax on TNC services in this measure.
Okay, thank you. Senator Norman has a question.
Yes, sir.
Uber is right up there with one of my favorites of Airbnb.
Mine too, sir.
And Uber was the original, one of the original disruptors of the economy, is I think the euphemism that we use for them. If I call Uber and my bill is $14, what are they going to have to pay under this bill?
It'd be about $1, maybe a bit short.
1% is 14 cents.
Excuse me. I was an English major, not a math major. That's off the top of my head.
Well, I can understand why, with your calculations, why the Uber has retained you.
Yeah, fair enough, Senator Norman. I apologize.
I would just say, Mr. Chairman, 14 cents.
Thank you.
Okay, I think we've made a point. Patrick?
Whoa.
Okay, Senator Saslaw?
Yes, sir.
Don't go away yet.
Sir.
So, you will look me in the eye and keep a straight face and tell me that on that $14 bill, the fact that it's $14.14 is going to discourage people from using Uber. You can't possibly believe that.
Mr. Chairman, I think this is the first sales tax on services on a passenger carrier of its kind. I think singling out one industry that a lot of people are using and that is delivering great benefit to the Commonwealth, is an inappropriate way to go about funding this. Again, we just saw this in the substitute summary last night and would respectfully
Have you
request
ever
it not
looked at
be
your
there.
airline ticket?
Sure.
You're saying, and there's no taxes on that fare? Are you serious?
On passenger carrier service I'm sorry, passenger carrier, whatever the DMV definition is.
Okay. All right,
you.
Senator Stanislaw, we'll let him go with his opinion.
Hold on.
Okay. Senator, Patrick?
Wait, can I, Mr. Chairman?
Oh, yeah, Senator
Just
Obenzay.
one follow-up
Sure.
question. So that 14 cents, is that what
Yes.
the math determined? Is that 14 cents that's being sent from Suffolk to fund the Metro?
Mr.
As
Chairman,
well?
I'll defer to the patron. I think this goes to the
The other
statewide
way
fund.
around. 80% of the money will come from Northern Virginia, but be distributed to your area.
Okay.
Okay.
So that's money that is coming from TNC fairs all over Virginia?
It stays there.
I've phoned a friend who's better at math and.
Okay,
and,
all right.
I believe you said 85 cents? Excuse me. So I was close with, I was close
Closer
with
to
a
a
dollar. I was close with a dollar.
1% of $14?
I think it's a 6% sales tax.
Six.
That's not on there.
Okay. All right.
It's a
I
sales
think
and
we have
use tax
another.
of 6%,
That's
sir.
already there.
Okay. We'll have another speaker here.
Thank you.
All right. Patrick?
I like going after Edward
Oh, okay.
on these issues. Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, Patrick Cushing with Williams Mullen on behalf of Lyft. And I'll start by saying that we don't have a position on the bill. Lyft works very closely with mass transit agencies and, of course, those people who use mass transit in the Commonwealth. We look to partner with mass transit entities in the Commonwealth. We do, however, oppose the inclusion of a general sales tax on TNC riders in the Commonwealth. I want to go over a few points that I have here from Lyft. When we look at the revenue generated by TNCs in the Commonwealth and those people who use TNCs, a lot of that revenue is generated by the TNC partners, those people who drive under the TNC banner. So they pay sales tax on the purchase of the vehicle that they drive. They pay the personal property tax, the titling tax, the motor fuels tax for driving people around, and then an income tax on the income they make in the Commonwealth. Adding a retail sales tax on those rides would equal the sixth tax that these individuals would pay on the services that they provide for folks looking to get around in the Commonwealth. Couple of statistics I want to highlight. Unfortunately, haven't had the chance to visit with everybody, but I'm going to point out a couple of different markets that Lyft operates in Virginia. 59% of the rides in Richmond either originate or finish in a low-income area. For Virginia Beach and Roanoke, it's 49% originate or terminate in a low-income area. And in Lynchburg, that number is 70%. Additionally, I'd like to point out statewide, Lyft riders, 57% of Lyft riders are millennials. So when we look at this tax from the Lyft perspective, I think what we see is a disproportionate impact on low-income individuals and millennial individuals. So we would hope that while we look towards finding a sustainable funding source for mass transit, that we do so in a way that doesn't unfairly target those individuals who are riding in TNCs. Thank you.
Senator Norman?
I'm sorry, I probably was being my normal inattentive self. And what percentage of the Northern Virginia riders are ending up in low-income and poverty areas? I missed that number, and I'm sorry, I wasn't listening very carefully.
I did not include, Mr. Chairman, Senator Norman, I did not include that because in working with Lyft within the past 23 hours, we were not able to parse out the information for Northern Virginia because we have information on specifically the Richmond and the Virginia Beach market and some of the other individual markets. Unfortunately, for Lyft, I'm having them pull the Northern Virginia data, but right now that's captured under what they call the DC market, which I've asked them to fix.
Mr. Chairman.
Senator Norman?
It seems to me that, a prudent and astute business person who knows that they were dealing with a potential tax increase in Northern Virginia would not start looking get Richmond and some other areas, but their initial focus would be in the jurisdiction where that tax is going to be imposed. So I do find that is a conspicuous oversight. But also, while you're there, Patrick, I just very curious, are you aware of whether or not your organization or any of your team members actually participated in a strategy to bombard Senator Wagner's telephones?
Mr. Chairman, Senator Dormant, no, that was not me.
I didn't ask you, that wasn't my question. And you are an attorney.
Yes, I
My
am.
question was, are you aware of whether or not anyone in your organization or a team member that may be working on this with you participated in that strategy?
Mr. Chairman, to the greatest extent of my knowledge, my client did not reach out to any senator on this.
Boy, did you go to the Bill Clinton school?
I said, okay. We don't want to intimidate our people here who have different opinions. Thank you, Patrick. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman,
Senator Carrico?
if this is a proper time, I'd like to offer an amendment that basically takes that tax out on the TNCs. We're singling out one type of industry on this, and I believe that they already help mitigate and reduce congestion up there, and I would offer that we remove that and some amendments, and I've offered those to the staff to remove language on lines 498 through 491, lines 711 through 713, lines 1112 through 1116, and the 13th enactment clause, which is lines 1647 through 1654. I would like to offer those amendments.
Is there a second to that? Okay, Senator Carrico, do you have a replacement for that 21 million, or?
If I move to triple it?
I do not, but I think I have further problems other than just that, but
Right,
I'll discuss that after a while.
Okay, sure. All right, there's a motion that's been offered. Senator Wagner, you're chairing that. Senator Saslaw, it's your bill. Which one of y'all want to respond to that? Senator Wagner?
I have a substitute motion.
Okay, substitute motion then.
I'd have to do it in concept, not to decrease it, but to triple it.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman.
Point of clarification, is that tripling it in Northern Virginia, or is that just in Williamsburg, or is that in
Northern
Harrisonburg as
Virginia,
well?
not to triple it, just on that one segment.
Okay, Chair didn't hear a second on that one.
Just for clarification, looking at the math, that's not 1%. That's the sales tax on a $14. It's not 1%.
Right.
It's 6%.
Right. That's correct. All right, I think, Senator Wagner, you want to?
Mr. Chairman, I'll let the patron talk. I mean, we discussed this at length. I will point out that yes, we're looking at taxing a service. I know that there are a few other services that are taxed. I know, and every time we've looked at tax reform, we've talked about whether or not we want to look at the overall sales tax and perhaps look at some services. But I will point out that cabs pay significant fees for the right to operate a cab. And those fees and those medallion fees and those things are rolled in to the rates, and the people that ride in those cabs pay those rates also. So this helps put a parity, I believe, somewhat between the Lyft and that type of thing. And I have supported the internet sales taxes simply because it puts our brick and mortar folks on the corner at a 6%, 5.5% price disadvantage. And we ought to be about leveling the playing field if no other reason. And so I would hope you'd resist that motion.
Senator Norman.
Senator Wagner triggered my interest, and he's much better informed than I, but you mentioned the medallions. Because Uber and Lyft are here opposing that portion of the bill, they might be mindful that the value of those medallions, particularly in New York City, have plummeted like the stock market in the last 3 days as a result of Uber and Lyft.
Mr. Chairman, Senator Norman, I wish you wouldn't remind me about the stock market right now.
Okay, all right. I think we're a little off.
I wasn't in a real good mood to begin with, and now it's just got a whole lot
Okay.
worse. But
I think the issue's been framed. If there are no further speakers, we have a motion that would eliminate that portion of the bill. I think everyone understands that. Clerk, open the roll. All.
Roll is open, sir.
Cast your votes. Clerk, close the roll.
Ayes 10, no 6.
Ayes 10, no 6. Okay, that amendment passes. Okay. All right. Did the members understand which way they were voting on that one? Want to be clear on that. Okay, okay. Okay. All right.
all right.
All right.
Mr. Chairman, I think the bill's before you. It's been explained. The subcommittee voted on a vote of 4-2 to report, and I would so move, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. All right. Senator Saslaw, did you want any further closing comments on the bill that's in front of us?
Just briefly, and I'll let Nick, maybe go into a little more detail. It provides $154 million a year, and it does not. None of that money is spent unless and until the District of Columbia and Maryland do the come up with their money as well. $30 million a year, and it will come from the state to WMATA, and that will not impact on any ongoing projects. There are 25-year bonds that are being paid off this year, which will free up that money, and then there's 10 more as a million that will come from the statewide rental car tax. And I think that's what, 1%? Yeah, 1% rental car tax. $44 million a year will come from the regional transient occupancy tax. Now, it's currently 2%, and if you remember, back in 2013, we voted for 3%. That bill, that was the conference report. It went to the governor. Governor McDonald moved it back to 2%. And so the 1% on it would go up 1%, which means that on a $200 hotel bill would add $2 to the bill. The 29 million would come from the grantor's tax of 10 cents on $100. Now, that also went to Governor McDonald at 25 cents, and when he sent it back during the veto session, it was 15 cents. So we had already voted to make it 25 cents once before. That's 10 cents, which means that if you sold something for $1 million, it would be $1,000 on the million. That's 1/10 of 1%. The grantor, and then the gas floor, both for Northern Virginia and Tidewater. In Northern Virginia, it would generate about $18.6 million. And then local governments from the NVTA money that they started getting as a result of 2013, local governments would cough up $31 million. That would bring it to 154. Now, in addition to that, there's, if you remember in the original bill, there was essentially an allocation of $100 million a year, $110 million a year in bonds over a 5-year period. That's come out, okay, because there was, a problem with it impacting on the state's debt capacity. So that's been removed. What's been offered up is $50 million a year, but that will only be if Congress reauthorizes the $150 million a year that they had done for 10 years. And as part of that deal, Maryland, Virginia, and D.C. Have been coming up with $50 million a year. Now, in the latest federal budget, it's not in there. So this $50 million cannot be used unless Congress reauthorizes the $150 million that started in 2008. All of that money, by the way, is for capital, okay? With the exception of I think the 30 million that goes to WMATA from the state, all of the rest of that is for capital only, not for operating. And as was pointed out by Senator Wagner, if the expenses grow by more than 3% a year, all of Virginia's money is withheld of this 154 million. So this is a way that you restrain any unreasonable growth. Now, in the LaHood report, they pointed out that the payroll and the pension are in line with all of the other transit systems around the country. They are not out of line. But to make sure they don't get out of line, we've put this 3% growth cap in there. And Nick, if you want to go ahead and get into some more of the weeds.
Mr. Chairman, before Nick comes up, Patriot, I'd like to ask him a couple questions.
Okay. Ask Nick or Senator Saslaw?
Senator Saslaw.
Okay.
So, Senator Saslaw, you referred to the Hood report and how that we're in line with all the other transits. What does your bill do, or what has been done to reform some of the pension issues there?
I don't think the pension issues wasn't a problem.
Mr. Chair, I can respond on that one if you would like.
Senator Barker?
Yes, actually, on the pension issues, what the LaHood report showed was that the average pension is actually less with WMATA than the average transit system across the country. And that the pension system is closer to being fully funded than either the Virginia or the Maryland systems for our state employees. So that there were some allegations last year about issues related to pension, and what the LaHood report showed is that those issues were bogus and that the pensions are not a significant issue.
So, Mr. Chairman, so what's the guarantee now that if your bill passes, that Maryland and DC are going to come into compliance?
Well, it's Metro that has to be, to make sure that it doesn't get out of line. If it exceeds 3%, Senator Carrico, they're cut off. That's exactly how you control that.
And Mr. Chair?
Senator Barker?
If I might add a little bit to that, the deal here, and it's part of what I and others, a couple of people, Matt Letourneau here from Loudoun County and NVTC, Sharon Woolf from the Fairfax Board, the three of us were part of the negotiating team that worked with the Maryland and DC people throughout the year. The deal is that none of the money flows unless all three jurisdictions put up their money. So if Maryland or DC, either one, were not to put up the funds, we would not follow through on our end. We're not going to be the ones paying if the other two aren't also doing that.
So, Mr. Chairman.
Senator Carrico?
Hypothetically, and we're just going to say that they don't, what are we going to do with the 154?
Mr. Chair, I would say that what in that situation, it just stays in the Virginia. What's the state money stays where it is in the Virginia budget, and the money that was to be taken from the localities, et cetera, is not taken from the localities.
So we're going to, Mr. Chairman.
Senator Carrico?
So if we're counting on DC and Maryland to do what they need to do, and they don't, we're just going to keep 154 million in a fund.
No, sir. No, sir. It's only $30 million that is coming from state sources. So most of the money is actually coming from transportation funds that are spent in Northern Virginia right now. The majority of the 154 million is coming out of transportation funds. Those funds would be available at the regional level or at the local level for use for other purposes.
Mr. Chairman, if I could hopefully clarify this.
Okay.
These taxes, none of these taxes become effective unless Washington, D.C. and Maryland do the same thing and come up with their 150 million. None of these taxes start right away. Right. These taxes don't start until D.C. comes up with their money and Maryland comes up with their money. That's the assurance you have on the tax part of it.
I might add that over the 40 years, Maryland and D.C. have never failed to come up with their money. I don't know why you would think they would start now.
Okay. Senator Carrico, did that finish your questions for now? For now? Okay. All right, what's, had you previously offered a motion?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I had the Grid Security and Transformation Act earlier this morning, and now I have this bill, and I feel like a scene from Animal House. Thank you, sir. May I have another? But
Okay.
again,
All right.
I'll renew my motion. It was, the
All right.
subcommittee reported on a vote of 4-2 to report the bill, and I would so move.
Okay.
Second.
Motion properly supported. Is there further discussion? Hearing none, clerk, open the roll on reporting the Senate bill. Clerk, record your votes. Clerk, close the roll.
Ayes 9, nays 4.
Ayes 9, nays 4. The bill is reported, and I guess there's a little bit of work yet to be done to fill the little hole we created here today. So,
Yes, sir, Mr.
Yes,
Chairman.
sir. Okay.
And we have one final bill, Senator Stewart's bill. And Senator Stewart's bill sets up a commuter rail and operating and capital fund, I think properly named CROC, with no money. And Mr. Chairman, we just pretty much assured by removing the Lyft Uber tax out of it, it will not have any money. So I just thought it was interesting that we're creating a fund, but we're not funding it. Mr. Chairman, it was a vote of 6-0 to report the bill, but I just want to add one comment because I'm sticking my head out here, and I've never voted for a general fund tax increase, and I never will. The state government needs to do that, but we have a responsibility at the state level to pay for a transportation system. It's not the locality's responsibility. It's not the federal government's responsibility. Now, we're either going to start funding transportation, or we might as well just turn our highway systems over to Spanish companies and Australian companies that are willing to invest in Virginia and build the highways, because that's what's going on now. You want to go down that road, expect to see more $10, $20, and $30 tolls and the things that we're seeing when there's demand actions and doing that. I think it's the wrong way to go, Mr. Chairman. That's why I will continue to stick my neck out every single time to try to properly fund transportation. It's our responsibility right here in this General Assembly to do it, and we can't keep shirking it. But with that, it was reported 6-0 to report a fund with no money, and I would say move, Mr. Chairman.
And Senator Stewart, that's your bill. Do you have anything to add? Okay, motion properly supported to report Senate Bill 683. Clerk, open the roll. Record your votes. Clerk, close the roll. Ayes 14, no 0.
And Mr. Chairman, that blessedly completes my subcommittee report.
Well, thank you, Senator Wagner. This turned out to be more fun than I anticipated. And I believe with that, does that clear the docket? No further business. Committee will rise.